You were walking through a forest, a beautiful one at that. The green canopy shielded the sun's intense rays of heat. Wildflowers dotted the ground in clumps, while bushes were the background. You came upon an old log. Although dead, it still held an unique beauty to it. You sat on it, catching your breath, for you had been walking a long time. You glanced around at the still silence surrounding you. No wind tossed the grass or trees, no animals to disturb the peaceful silence, at least not yet. Loud rustles erupted behind you. You jumped back, backing away slowly. A boy stumbled from the bushes. His black hair hung in his face, with 3 white stripes on one side. "That's odd," you thought to yourself. "Never seen that before." He glanced up at you, his striking yellow eyes shimmering. He wore a suit with a shinigami sitting on his chest. He stood up, brushed himself off, and held out his hand. You reached your own to his, shaking it. "My apologies, miss. I didn't mean to startle you." He smiled at you, causing you to blush slightly. "No problem. It's hard to be quiet here." He shook his head. "Nonsense, darling. My fault for making such a ruckus." You simply grinned at him. "Oh, where are my manners? My name is Death the Kid, but feel free to call me Kid. And what may I call you, madame?" He raised your hand to his lips, making you turn away into tomato-strawberry hybrid. You cleared your throat. "My name is YNLN, but you can call me Nin. Nickname." He smiled. "What a lovely name. Well, now if you don't mind, may I have this dance?" He bowed and you blushed. "To what would we dance to?" you asked him whilst putting your hand on his shoulder. "Why, to the sounds of nature around us, the winds, the animal, and to the beauty, though I doubt they can compare that of yours." He put his hand on your waist, pulling you closer. He stepped to the side, you followed. He stepped backward, you followed once again. You were so caught up in him that when your alarm clock jarred, you awoke. You could have sworn he was real. Dang it. You clicked your tongue. You had been having that dream for 2 months now, each one more vivid than the last. You grumbled as you swung your legs over your bed. You walked to the bathroom to take a shower. You gathered your hair-colored hair into a braid, throwing it over your shoulder. You walked to the kitchen, hoping at least a small remainder of breakfast was left. Your mother was busily washing the dishes. "Morning, Mom," you said sleepily. The shower hadn't woken you up completely. "Hey, sweetheart." She placed a kiss on your forehead. "Sorry, honey, there's no more breakfast. Your father and David finished it up pretty fast." You groaned. David, being your older brother, always thought that since he was the firstborn, deserved some special treatment. You hated him at times, but he was still your brother. "I can make you something if you'd like." Your mother, although she didn't say it, likes you more than David, so she often gave you more than you needed. "It's okay, Mom. I can just eat a granola bar." She nodded and grabbed one for you. Your dad walked in, dressed for work. "Hey, sweetie, ready to go?" You nodded as David walked in as well. "Can we go? I was late last time and my professor was not happy." He grumbled. You rolled your eyes. "If you didn't talk to your girlfriend before class, you wouldn't be late," you said with a hint of sass. "Well, if you had social skills, you might actually get a date." You laughed and punched his arm. That was so lame that some guy in Korea is probably laughing at you. He laughed as well. "Come on, kids, let's go." Your dad had already made it to the car. You and David raced to the car to see who would get the front seat. He won, like always. You walked in the huge double doors of your high school. You glanced and saw your friends by the lockers. Lucky them, they had lockers right next to each other. "Hey Wayne, over here." You smiled and rushed over. "Hey Vivian, Courtney." Vivian grinned, her raven locks shining. She blinked her large, light green eyes. Courtney was the opposite of Vivian. She was dark, serious, and rarely smiled. She did have beautiful hair though, dark caramel curls that contrasted well with her deep blue eyes. The school bell rung, signaling the start of class. "Shoot. Bye guys. Come on in." You rushed down the hall, being pulled along by Vivian. You two weren't late, which was a relief. The teacher was uber strict and hated tardy students. 1 hour later. "Alright children, we have a transfer student." She pushed her glasses up. Death the Kid. Strange name, but no matter. "Come out, Mr. Kid." You gasped at the name. You were even more surprised that the boy from your dream walked in the class. "How about you tell us something about yourself, Mr. Kid?" The teacher looked over at him. He nodded. Symmetry is the key. Everything must be aesthetically perfect. And yes, the stripes are natural. Some kids snickered and giggled, but you just stared. Vivian elbowed you. "Hey, Inan, quit staring. You seem like a creep." He caught your stare. Your eyes locked. You blushed and looked away. "Alright, Mr. Kid, take your seat, please. Choose any you like." He nodded and chose the seat directly in front of you. You mentally face-palmed. You stared down at your uneaten lunch. "Hey, Inan, are you okay?" Vivian was giving you a look of concern. "I'm fine, I promise." You put on a smile, showing her that you really were fine. She grinned back. Tell the truth. Courtney wasn't as liable to your words. You groaned. "Fine. The new boy, the kid guy. I saw him in my dreams." You blushed and looked down at your feet. Vivian giggled. "Is our little girl falling in love?" She started making kissing noises. "Oh, kid, I love you so much." You slapped her hand. Scurried footsteps sounded behind you, and you glanced over your shoulder to see the kid character. You blushed a little and slapped Vivian's head. "Wait, stop, you're ruining the symmetry." You gave him a confused look. He gasped at your own hair. You raised an eyebrow and he just stared. You rushed forward so your faces were inches apart. You blushed and he raised his hands and started messing with your hair. You were confused and tried pulling away, but a firm grip was placed on the back of your head. "Stay still," he hissed, and even Courtney held back laughter. You stared into his eyes, losing yourself in his yellow orbs. He stepped back and smiled. "There, perfectly symmetrical. Looks good on you." Vivian couldn't help but, "No," at the sight of a blushing you and a smiling kid. He then passed you a note. You glanced down at it. "Goodbye, Evan." You gasped slightly. "How do you know my name?" After looking back up, you realized he was gone. "Meet me by the West Wing Hall. I need to talk to you. Heart, DTK." You stood waiting in the hall, in the West Wing. Kid rushed over to you. "Sorry for making you wait. Now, I need to say this. I've seen you in my dreams." He explained with a straightforward attitude. "Oh, wait, what? Your dreams?" "I may sound crazy, but I've seen you there too. In my dreams." You glanced at him before staring at your shoes. "What was your dream?" he asked. You glanced up and back down. "I was in a forest when you fell out of a bush, and then we started dancing." You blushed heavily at this. Peculiar. My dream was mostly the same, except we were at a party hosted by my father. I met you, and we also started dancing." He picked your chin up, forcing you to look into his eyes. "Well, it seems that fate has chosen for our lives to intervene. What do you think?" You blushed harder, and even harder when he placed a kiss on your cheek, letting his lips linger. He simply said goodbye, leaving you to stand there, questioning yourself. What the hell just happened? Kids POV. Did I really just do that? Really? I was surprised beyond all. That girl was just beautiful. Anybody that symmetrical that I can't make them look better is special. I know that. Which is why that girl caught my attention. After fixing her hair in the lunchroom and getting no result, it angered me slightly. My senses slapped, though, when I realized that I needed to see her again. Man, I was an idiot to just run away like that. I ran my hand through my hair, not caring if it got messed up. Did fate want to screw with me or something? I hated this, my brain constantly fighting with itself. I groaned and fell back on my bed. I missed my friends from Death City. Father only sent me here as a relaxation vacation, with the city being destroyed from the Cᴇʀsᴏ. He only believed it would be better here for me. I still missed everybody terribly, though. I could have helped rebuild everything, give it more of a symmetrical feel. I sighed and settled down for sleep. I closed my eyes and waited for unconsciousness to take over. Third person POV. You had gone home, holding a hand to your cheek. You were still surprised that he would notice you or even feel the same way. Well, you guessed he felt the same way. You sighed and hurried to your house. You jumped up the steps and ran in. Where have you been? David rushed to you and hugged you tightly. I was with a friend. He pulled away and stared in your eyes. A smirk played on his lips, and he winked. Is our little in growing up? He said jokingly. You laughed at him and pushed him away. No, you doofus. He's a new kid, and he had trouble with homework and asked if I would help, so I did. Nailed it. That was the best excuse ever. He smiled at you. That's good. Mom and Dad went out, so be lucky you don't have to deal with them, just me. He threw his hands up and started chasing you around. You hid in a closet, holding back your laughter. You couldn't anymore, and it alerted him. He jumped in and started tickling you. You screeched, and he let go. You jumped on his back and poked him in the shoulder. Onward, my trusty steed! You yelled, and he laughed. Sure, your brother could be a jerk, but at times when it was just you, he was nice and open to everything. Dude, you're heavy. He fell down on the couch, faking a dramatic death. He held his throat and choked. You laughed and rolled off him. He finally stopped and poked you. What? Wanna watch a movie? Why, just one. You loved the weekend. Staying up late and watching movies, playing games, and pretty much just goofing around was something you and David held close. Neither of you ever had plans, but from time to time, friends could come over too. Friends tonight? Definitely. Why? Horror movie night? You fist bumped the air. Wait a minute. You just want to cuddle with Opal. He raised his hands in defense. You punched his shoulder. You and your girlfriend, I swear. He shrugged and texted her. Can Vivi come? He nodded, and you rushed to get your phone. You dialed up her number and waited. Hey, girlfriend, what's up? You laughed and told her about movie night. Awesome. Can I bring over a few games? Which ones do you want? You thought for a while and listed out a few. Okay, right, on it. Oh, and Courtney can't come because she's busy. Fine, that's whatever. Besides, David said I could only invite you. Opal's coming over as well. Vivian squealed. Yes, that girl is hilarious. You laughed at her little outburst. Okay, I'll see you in a bit, she said. Okay, bye-bye. You hung up the phone and placed your own on the table. You heard a knock on the door, as well as David jumping up to get it. He rushed into the kitchen, to the door. He opened it, and Opal leaped into his arms. He smiled and spun her around. You smiled at both of them and headed back into the living room. You opened the closet door and pulled out a few blankets and pillows. You jumped on the shorter couch and cuddled in the corner. Hey, Viv. You heard from the door. You waited for her to come into the living room. She ran in, and you jumped on the same couch you were on. You laughed at her and passed over the blanket. She draped it over her shoulders, leaning back into your legs. David and Noble came in the room as well. They settled down, and David started up the movie. Your POV. Viv was currently gripping my legs out of terror. I laughed at her, and she shot me a death glare. Opal was currently cuddling with my brother, both of them barely paying attention. I saw that the movie had ended and pushed Vivian off me. No, I need to hang on to something. I don't want to get sucked in that closet. She pointed to ours with its door ajar. It did look sort of creepy. I pushed her to it, earning a yelp from Viv. She hesitantly put a hand on the knob. She quickly shut it closed and ran back to me. She grabbed my legs again and started shaking. I giggled and pushed her off. How about a game? She nodded. Mario Kart? Heck yeah. It was getting late. I went to my room, jumped on my bed, and got all snuggled up in the covers. Vivian laid on the floor beside me. The image of the boy kept flitting its way into my mind. I grumbled and turned over. No luck. I tried my back, staring at the ceiling. Why? I exclaimed as I threw my hands up. I finally did fall asleep after some time. Okay, a long time. Dreams filled my consciousness. All of them about that boy. You sat at your desk at school, doodling on a small piece of paper. Footsteps faintly carried over to where you were. You looked up, meeting the eyes of Death Kid. Your breath caught in your throat and you stared at the paper, a heat rising in your cheeks. Are you okay, Lion? You could hear the smirk in his voice. You nodded your head and he chuckled. I'm fine. You blushed harder. He laughed and put his hand under your chin, forcing you to look into his eyes. You don't seem like it. The sarcasm dripping from his voice was undeniable. He leaned in slowly, turning your cheeks into a strawberry. You fluttered open your eyes to see a pillow quite close to your face. You yelped and pushed it away when you realized you had been kissing it. God dang it, stupid, sexy, hot boy! You screamed, causing your mom to rush into your room. Sweetheart, are you okay? She cautiously picked her way to your bedside. You groaned, running a hand through your hair. You flopped back down in your bed, cursing the world mentally. "Aw, honey." She put your hand in hers, squeezing it tightly. "Boys got you down." You nodded sadly into your pillow, causing her to chuckle. "Would ice cream and Netflix help?" You nodded once again. She stood up and crouched down. You perked up and climbed on her back. She laughed and carried you downstairs. All the while, you were happy that it was the weekend. "Go change, sweetheart." You jumped up, running to your room. You opened the closet door, pulled out a proper attire and slipped it on. You jumped back downstairs, meeting your mom in the kitchen. "Ready to go, honey?" You nodded while walking to the front door. You jumped out the porch and stretched. You looked up and screamed. Standing out in the lawn with a look of terror on his face was Kid. "What are you doing here?" You shouted. Your mom rushed out to glare at him. After him sitting there, glancing around and rocking on his feet, your mom spoke up. "Answer, my daughter," she firmly said, no questioning tone. "Sorry, miss, I came to see Finn." She looked at you, giving you a look that said, "Do you know this boy?" You nodded and told her she could go back inside to rest. She gave you a look of confusion before walking inside. You turned to look back at him. "Kid's POV." She glared at me, and I looked at my toes. I looked back up, seeing her tapping her foot impatiently. I sucked in my breath before rushing to her. I grabbed her arm, and she protested. I pulled her away from the door. I ran to the side of her house, where no windows sat on the walls. She yelped and struggled against my grip. I sighed, placing my hands on her shoulder. I backed her up to the wall, a bright red painting her cheeks. I gulped down my nervousness. Wait, why am I nervous? I defeated evil clowns, overcame most of my OCD, and have two of the best weapons ever. So why am I scared? I shook it off and stared straight at her. Her eyes darted around, never looking at me. I took this moment of her distraction to place my lips on hers. She tensed up, but relaxed into my arms. Your POV. "Oh my gosh, he's kissing you. But why? Who cares? One of the most perfect guys you've ever met is returning your feelings toward him." You rested your arms around his neck. He brought his arms to your waist, pulling you closer. You were grinning throughout the entire moment. He seemed to be doing the same. He pulled away, causing you to pout. "Wait, how do you find my house?" "Your friend told me." He laughed and you hugged him tightly. "I've been waiting to ask you this, but may I have this dance?" You nodded ecstatically. He held your right hand in his, keeping his other on your waist. You held your shoulder and followed his steps. You both danced to what little sound there was, the grass whistling in the wind chimes clinging ever so often. You sighed happily, laying your head on his shoulder. He hugged his arms around you and whispered sweet nothings in your ear. You blushed insanely when he told you this. This is still in your head today, when you've been dating for 3 years. His exact words were, "I would give up all the symmetry in the world." just to spend my entire life with you and your beauty.